point where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. I'm Colin True, and joining me today, he has some Bedrock sandals he can get you for a great deal. It's Justin Hausman.
I don't know if you read my latest AJ newsletter, but I talk about how charmed I was that Bedrock is like, you know what? Don't buy any right now. Just give us a month. And how cool is that? That I was like, totally.
It's so cool.
And I have to imagine that most people that would get that message from them somehow would be like, oh yes, absolutely. It made me feel good about the outdoor community. That's for the most part, you can rely on us to not be total shitheads and be like, ooh, I don't know though. It's 50% off. I get it on eBay.
Just do the right thing, folks. Yeah, well, we're talking a little bit about Bedrock. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the outdoor world. Before we get to that, though, hey, Justin, congratulations making it to the weekend. It's Saturday when we're recording this. You got any plans for the weekend? Or is it going to be a long weekend?
What are the weekend plans? Well, it's Fleet Week up here, and I'm the only progressive liberal in San Francisco Bay Area that loves when the jets and the ships come into the. I was actually surfing yesterday, and the parade of ships comes through the Golden Gate, and it's pretty rad. If you're surfing kind of the north end of the beach, and you just have this lineup of destroyers and cruisers and stuff cruising in through the Golden Gate, that's cool. So I'm taking
those things should always be cool, no matter what.
I'm taking the 4-year-old to go see the Blue Angels in the F-35 demonstration this afternoon.
Well, I started my weekend like I do any other day with a pot of Long Weekend Secret Handshake Blend. Long Weekend coffee is the perfect pairing for your next adventure, whether it's seeing the long ships in San Francisco or going out for a gravel ride. So head to longweekend.coffee, shop around, add stuff to your cart, and then at checkout, enter the promo code ROCK10 to get 10% off of your first order. Long Weekend coffee, more weekend, please. All right. So let's just get caught up a little bit on what we've been doing outside. Have you had any fun adventures this week?
I've been surfing again, Colin. I'm a surfer again.
How's that been? Has it been oh, I forgot how much fun this is. Just perfect waves. Is that what kind of got you back out there? What was the impetus there? Just been a while.
Well, yeah. I mean, the summer sucks here always,
right?
And but yeah, it's fall now, so it's offshore, and the waves are fun. The water's warm. I mean, it's the best time of year of it for surfers in California, especially up here. Also, San Francisco was always where I surf was always notoriously empty of new surfers because it's a really just a treacherous place to surf. The waves are huge and powerful a lot of the times, and it's not like a beginner friendly zone. Mm-hmm. And so forever, it was pretty much an undiscovered sort of country. I mean, it was just tons of beach, and you could go surf wherever you want.
Yeah,
you barely
for a
see
while
other
there,
people,
it was the break du jour that you saw covered. Hey, everyone's surfing Ocean Beach, and everyone's going to San Francisco now. And I don't know if that was Mavericks that kind of spawned that or what, but.
A little bit. I mean, it's just honestly just more exposure with people with cameras and phone. I mean, same things happened everywhere.
Right.
But we got pretty slammed pretty hard in the last decade in terms of crowds. Just younger dudes moving up here for the tech scene and people working more flexible hours, and it got more crowded. We've talked about it before. It got to the point where it was way more crowded than anything I ever saw in Southern California, which is bizarre considering the actual waves and the beach and stuff. But somehow in the last couple of years, I don't know if it's probably, well, I guess it's almost certainly because people are leaving San Francisco again, but the crowd scene has just fallen off the table.
Yeah.
So it's just been a joy this week where you could just drive to the beach, and it's pretty user friendly in terms of the surf around here, and there's hardly anybody out. I mean, it's been fantastic. So
that's awesome.
Been a good week. Been a real nice week. Yeah. Yeah. What about you?
I've not had much of a week. I had a tooth extracted on Tuesday because I had a failed root canal.
That's an adventure.
I mean, it is kind of an adventure. It's an adventure of, number one, getting sedated, and then it's an adventure number two of you got to sit around for 2 or 3 days so you don't get dry socket. So that sucks. So I've not been doing much this week, which I'm kind of getting bummed. Our bikepacking trip is like a month from today. We'll be riding. I feel like so. I want to get out riding a little bit. I'm feeling the urge or the need to log some miles to be ready because I think our first day is gonna be pretty burly. Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm. But as I've been kind of sitting around, there was interesting. We mentioned in the open about Bedrock. I mean, I can't remember the last time I heard they literally had a shipment of their clogs stolen, and it sounds like it was a targeted thing. You and I have both, and it's the Mountain Clog too, which is their new shoe that we both reviewed here on the Rock Fight. And then it was funny because I had this on our outline to talk about, and then you covered it in your AJ newsletter. So it's kind of a unique thing we don't see too often here in the outdoor industry. I feel like.
I don't know. I think I read about it on Gear Junkie. I don't know. They mentioned something about a viral TikTok or something like that, which spawned it popularity for the shoes, and I haven't seen. I don't know what that's from. Like, I don't know if they reached out to an influencer or something like that who made a video and it like took off or what. But I didn't realize that they had like grown so popular amongst the like influencer crowd. I'm not surprised. They're pretty. I mean, they're pretty unusual shoes, but yeah. I mean, I'd like to think that it might have something to do with something that we've talked about or written. You know, maybe that was what spawned their popularity. Not the theft, I mean, but the popularity of the shoes.
Well, I found them because of your coverage in AJ a couple years ago. That's when I first heard of Bedrock, which is funny because they've been around since like 2011. And then you reviewed them on here, and then I did a follow-up review for the Mountain Clog. And it's getting to be in Mountain Clog season pretty soon. So, but that's...
you know, I forgot I had them.
Right?
Until like a couple... I don't know, like a week ago, I was like kind of digging under my bed for some other shoes. I'm like, oh yeah,
right?
These. Like, I forgot all about these. But I'm not quite ready to admit that like it's going to be cold soon. So I put them right back. But
it is funny though to think that if they're kind of they're finding out about the theft through like them showing up on eBay and Facebook Marketplace, and if there's some sort of like, you know, viral thing happening on TikTok, it would be kind of funny to think that this could be something that helps them blow up as they had their shit stolen.
Oh, it absolutely could. I was thinking about that too. I mean, it totally could.
That'd be awesome. I mean, it would be a nice silver lining to a bad situation.
It's still a huge bummer. I mean, I don't know enough about
theft.
Their sort of. Well, yeah. How do you do it? I don't know enough about their market share or financial like situation to know whether or not like if you lose like a season's worth of shoes, are you screwed? I mean, I don't know. A friend of mine who owns this, I've talked to him before, but he owns a wetsuit company. They had a manufacturing snafu where the manufacturer decided to use a different glue to glue the seams together and didn't tell them, or glue the tape onto the seams and didn't say anything, and it turns out that the glue didn't work. And so they had like an entire season of suits that just failed. And they were like, we don't know if we're going to be around next year. Like, we don't know. We might not be able to survive this. And they ended up being fine. So I don't, hopefully Bedrock is the same.
And we talk a lot about this on this show, and usually from a cynical point of view. But if you ever wonder why cool independent brands who get known based off of cool products like sell out to like, VF or Vista Outdoors or Columbia or whatever, this is why. Because it's a really good point. I mean, you think about Bedrock has like 8 products total in their line. The Mountain Clog was this kind of big initiative for them to kind of like, hey, we're expanding the line. It got a lot. They sold out their first thing. I couldn't get it. Remember when we first did the review earlier this year? I couldn't even get a pair. So, but still, how much then did they invest in this line, and then to not have the product show up? Yeah, that could totally kill the brand, depending on where their financials are. I mean, if they're treading water, absolutely. So this is where it starts to look pretty attractive, where it's like, VF comes knocking, like, hey, we want to acquire you. So like, we're going to write you a big fat check. Oh, and you won't have zero issues like this ever again because we're VF. And that's where it makes sense, right?
It does, and I was thinking about it. Like, I got to assume that there is. Oh man, I would love to go undercover and write about this sort of thing, but I have to assume that like theft rings for this sort of stuff, like, around here, well, around everywhere, there's like a big rash of like car break-ins right now, and it's not like one dude going around and like breaking into cars and see if they have phones. It's like, they get paid to do it by somebody else who sells all the stuff they steal on eBay, right? Like they're like organized rings,
right?
So
it's like aggressive panhandling.
Yeah, and I sort of have to assume this is probably something similar, right? Like, and I when I was writing about it, I was imagining, like, I don't know what the situation was. I think it was a truck that they like. I don't know if they stole the whole truck. They just stole who knows how it went. But I'm imagining these dudes in like ski masks or whatever, like busting open this truck, and like they're all like hyped up on it. They're like it's they're all whatever it is, full of like nerves and stuff as they're like committing this crime, and like, they like bust open the back, and they're like, see all these boxes, like, these fucking dorky shoes. This is like the cops can come any second. Like these shoes. This is what we're stealing. Like I love that.
So you wrote something similar to that, like in your AJ newsletter, didn't you? Did you say something about that?
Just like, sure. Yeah, like it's got to be like the first time like there's been some big organized theft ring about like clogs.
That's right.
But yeah,
Because you wrote that, and as I read it, I'm like, I had this picture of like the scene in Goodfellas when they boost the truck kind of in the beginning, and like then they're like selling the cigarettes or whatever, or selling whatever out of the back of the car, and I'm like, there's Henry Hill and fucking Tommy, like like they're slick suits, but then they got on mountain clogs, like Smokey's like, what you were selling these fucking clogs now,
I mean,
just
totally. Like it's like cigarettes, and I think they do that with like beef or something too in Goodfellas, but like. Yeah, like the idea that they're just like, well,
it's like a Scorsese made an outdoor themed movie.
It's amazing. And I actually meant to go on eBay to see what the story was with the clogs, because they're probably calling them the weirdest shit too, like whoever is. Like leather clog shoe sandals.
Let's get into the headlines. The first one, you sent me this one today, this week, and this is the. Not to get off on like kind of a negative foot here, folks, but this is just buckle up for this one, because Columbia, we mentioned Columbia a little bit ago, but Columbia has announced their Overlanding shoes and apparel line. They released a collection of these shoes they're calling Landroamer. It's being marketed towards the overlanding community. The collection consists of a waterproof leather boot, a Chelsea boot, and a slip-on that looks remarkably similar to the Merrill Jungle Mock. The justification for the line is pretty thin. Even in an interview, Columbia product manager Ryan Bucci gave to Gear Junkie, they claimed that when combined with the Landroamer apparel line, it offers consumers a head-to-toe option for adventuring by car, truck, van, or other rigs. In short, the same as all other apparel and footwear. So you sent this to me. I learned about it from you. What do you think of the overlanding specific line from Columbia?
I didn't watch the interview. I didn't read anything about it. I did go to the website to try and see if they were going to actually try to justify this in some way. And to their credit, they don't. There's not. I honestly thought there might be like a picture of someone's like foot on like a Sprinter gas pedal with their shoe, and it's showing how it like relieves strain on the forefoot as you're driving all day, or some insane shit like that. But it's bad enough to where I looked around at my closet and I was like, what does Columbia own? That they've like this basically anything I have in here is Mountain Hardwear is Columbia. Like so I might just get rid of all this. I was that offended where I've thought about purging my closet from Mountain Hardwear stuff. I mean,
which is funny too. Hardware did a brand relaunch this week, and it's awesome. Like it's exactly what did you see their new website?
Oh no,
and
I
everything?
didn't. I didn't.
It's cool. It makes them look super cool again.
That's good, but Jesus, holy Christ, Columbia. I mean, I don't really know what to say. I don't know what to say. How did that get whatever. You know what? People will buy it. Like, I live in Sprinter Town. So do you. People will buy it. I'll see this shit. I'll see. But the boots are just boots. I mean,
they're just boots.
But even like, I would actually have preferred that they really went all in. And they're like, these are like F1 racing shoe inspired. Whatever. Like, cool. At least you're trying. But like,
for your RV.
I mean, for the love of Christ, man. Like, wow.
This is where are the checks and balances by the outdoor media? I mean, this is why, we rant a lot in this pod, but it's like, this is why. I mean, like, how is no one sitting in that, media day with these people and going, really? Or Gear Junkie, write a snarky coverage, article about this, right? Like, hey, yeah, overlanding shoes, your New Balance won't work.
That's why it helps that we don't make any money from this. Second Columbia cuts a check. Those are going to be the coolest shoes we've ever seen in our lives. You kidding?
That's why they'll never sponsor this podcast. We're going after beer companies first.
I mean, that's it, man. I mean, that's it. Like,
you just nailed. That's the answer to my question, right? I mean, it's kind of like everybody is too in bed with the outdoor brands, and nobody wants to hurt any feelings or say anything overly negative. And to your point, the stuff will work fine. I'm sure they'll probably fit great. They're probably made in the same factories as every other, performance footwear brand in the world. But it's just, come on. Like, we talk about, I'm giving Rab and outdoor research shit for like going to an obviously adjacent market for them in mountain biking. And like, you're telling me you had no other things to do but make overlanding shoes and apparel? What is overlanding apparel? What does technical overlanding apparel do?
Well, what's interesting is you have to wonder if this exact conversation took place when whoever pitched that idea pitched it and they decided to just do it anyway. Because surely there were people, because it's like, here's the thing with these brands, right? They're staffed by people who are probably pretty cool and smart.
Sure.
And they, it's like, what are they going to do? Quit over a dumb idea? No, of course not. They're gonna like, well, all right, I guess this is what we're doing, and I'm sure a lot of them are like, this is ridiculous, but.
So in my experience, sitting in some of those rooms, like selling textiles, you're absolutely right. There's definitely some places where you see the eyebrows raised, or you get the like, all right, so yeah, we're gonna do this line, and what do you got for this? And you kind of like, well, we have this fabric. I guess that will work for your weird thing that you're doing. There's other places though where they're absolutely like just completely indoctrinated and they've drunk the Kool-Aid and they're like, no, our market research shows that the overlanding market is going to need its own specific set of things, and this could be a real winner for us. And it's this is just a weird one to me. Like some of those like the mountain bike one makes sense. Like that really does make sense. I think there's a layer of criticism that is valid there, but I understand why a brand like Outdoor Research or Rab would expand into that category. At Loa making trail running shoes, I get it. This is just a weird category. I mean, it's a category where you can wear Wrangler jeans and the T-shirt from like the concert you went to 30 years ago.
I don't even usually wear shoes while I'm driving, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're in the truck, right? But you're not.
Yeah.
Right?
Like if I'm going on a really long trip and it's warm out, I drive barefoot a lot of time. I drive barefoot every time I come back from the beach. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
I'm not wearing a shirt half the time I'm driving in the mountains. I mean, Jesus.
My kids, if they saw me driving in shoes, they'd be surprised, right? I mean, and so if you're overlanding, yeah, I understand maybe you have to get out, right? If you're on a trail or someplace, you're back somewhere where you want to kind of scout the road ahead. Well, then you just put your shoes on, I don't know, man.
I love that the shoe is called a Landroamer too. I was thinking a little bit about this because there's already a like garishly awful, environmentally destroying like line of overlanding rigs called the Earthroamer, and these are like $500,000, 12,000-pound RVs with like insane four-wheel drive capabilities. People like this is the thing. Like you think these. San Diego County and Marin County Sprinter guys have a lot of money to burn. These are the things that like people ship in containers around the world.
This is what Wes Seiler thinks everybody should drive.
Right. I'm gonna go to Namibia, so I'm gonna ship my Earthroamer on a tank on a freighter from my house in Laguna Beach. I mean, those are the real things.
Could use some fossil fuels right there.
Yeah, and so it's like, is the Landroamer name like a nod to the Earthroamer like vehicle? Is it? No,
man. Like I said, my big beef is look, they got to make stuff, they got to expand lines. Ultimately, it's capitalist society, all that stuff. I really wish that because I have the Reddit and Gear Junkie too. I just wish whoever wrote that article would have just kind of had a little bit more of a really kind of question, eyebrow raised with their coverage.
They can't
because
they can't.
They can't. But I also think you can have some journalistic integrity and just sort of like let the statement from the person, you kind of get it across, like, hey, we pressed them on the need for this, and this is what they said.
I agree, and I wish, if I were to start my own sort of media brand, that's what I would just be like, look, here's the deal. Like, you're going to brands, generally speaking, this hopefully will get really popular, so any publicity is good publicity. I'm just going to say what I think and like get on board. Yeah. Like, who cares if I don't like your stuff? Does it matter to you? Like I'm clearly not your target, so worry about your target. Like I think that would be great. Like I would love for big media, for some big outdoor media to just be like, I'm not afraid to step on people's toes or to shit on things because we're doing a good job and we're being honest and people listen to us. And,
it's thin skin.
There you go.
It's completely thin skin. I think, like, number one, I think what choice do the brands have? They're going to continue to advertise. And I don't know. I look at, and movies are my default comparison, which isn't it's not a one-for-one comparison, but like, I don't know. People continue to like think about what goes into making something like a movie, and then you have like it comes out, and then one guy with some notoriety goes to see it and is like, this is shit, and then nobody goes to see it, and that's art, right? I mean, I get it, but it's also like, so if it should be, you had a bad review, somebody questions it, well, don't you want that critical feedback? It's a little.
That's true.
If you were just kind of being told you're great all the time, and you're gonna get complacent anyway, like I don't know, I just feel like the media needs to do better.
That's true. Plus, at least a handful of people, if not more, are going to go to the website and click on this to say, I got to see these fucking shoes now, based on us talking about it.
Too.
And one of them will buy them.
Right.
At least one person. You're welcome, Columbia. One person who did not know about this otherwise is going to buy them based on this conversation. I guarantee it.
Also, how much sway do you feel like, Gear Junkie or The Rock Fight or Outside Magazine, whoever has over people? Look, Crocs is the best example, and I'm not taking a shot just for the shit taking a shot.
Very good example.
Crocs are objectively dumb and ugly looking. but they're comfortable as shit, right? So people were like, yeah, I like that. And then and it's just like they are, what would we say, $5 billion, $7 billion now? And I
Well,
guarantee you everyone thought they were stupid when they came out. You know why? Because I was there and we all said those are stupid. It's good.
I mean, I've mentioned before, I do some copywriting for Keen, and
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely brilliant that their Newport sandal, which is insanely comfortable and awesome and one of my favorite pairs of shoes, is marketed as the world's ugliest sandal. That's
Lean
fucking
into it.
brilliant. That's great.
Be who you are. Yeah. Well, there you go. We'll send you an invoice, Columbia, for all that good brand and media advice from maybe that's what we'll start consulting side of the business.
They, you know what? We think we're so smart.
We do.
Like we fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. They're like,
fuck.
This is the whole point.
Yeah, you got us this time, Columbia.
Well played. Well played.
And I just complimented Mountain Hardware's website, who's owned by Columbia.
Well played.
Well, our next headline comes from a report on explorersweb.com, who reported on October 1st about the grim story of a pair of backpackers who were killed by a grizzly bear in Canada's Banff National Park. A husband and wife duo, along with their dog, were experienced backpackers, and all three were victims of the bear, who authorities described as aggressive and was found and destroyed shortly after the attack. This is the time of year when bears are fattening up for winter, and it's also the time of year when northern climates get the best weather for backpacking. So I don't know, man. I never know what to make of these stories. I devour them, sorry, no pun intended, voraciously. Like when they come out, I always read them when they do come out. But as someone who backpacks more than I do, what goes through your mind when you hear about an incident like this?
Well, Jesus, man. I mean, have you ever been killed and eaten by a bear, Colin?
I have not. And you hear the survival stories, and it sounds like not a great way to go out,
I don't camp in those places. I mean, that's a thing. Like, there's actually I don't know how big it is. Hopefully small. There is a movement within California to reintroduce grizzly bears to the Sierra, and I will literally chain myself to any kind of thing that would keep that from happening. I've been to Montana a lot. Like we used to go there a lot to do some really epic like mountainous horseback riding. And I was in very much grizzly country. And I have fished in places in Montana where people have been eaten like on that spot or at least killed. And I found that out like in retrospect, and I was horrified that I was like being so idiotic fishing by myself in those places. So I respect that those things are there. I don't think that we should like kill grizzly bears or whatever, but I guess I would imagine that those people will probably tell you, well, they knew the risks. I mean, there was a guy killed and eaten by a great white over in Point Reyes, which is pretty close to me. I've been to the beach before where he was killed. I've never surfed there, but I've thought about it. And I mean, if that happened to me, I was surfing all week, like if that happened to me, I wouldn't complain. I'd be like, well, I guess I knew that could happen. But I just think like, the articles I was reading were like, talked about how experienced these people were.
Yeah, that's what's scared me
and they
more
did
than
everything
anything
right.
else.
Yeah, and you're just like, well, shit, because I probably wouldn't. It's like, I mean, what? I don't know. I mean, I'm cavalier about bears because we only have black bears in California, and although I believe statistically, I could be wrong. I do believe that statistically, if you're attacked by either a grizzly or a black bear, you're more likely to be killed eaten by a black bear because they are so rarely attack people. They only do it if they're hunting you. Like they don't really like charge you and try to kill you if their cubs are around. They're just going to bounce. Yeah. But if a black bear is coming after you, it's intending on eating you. So like I do think that I believe I've read that before. But you see a bear around California, you're like, oh, sick. Like it's not. Yeah, right.
It's a cool wilderness experience.
Yeah, and I just can't fathom it, dude. Like I can't imagine putting myself in a place to where the idea of getting killed and eaten by a grizzly is like totally feasible. I just can't.
Is there a difference as a surfer in your mind? Because I mean, there probably is not really a difference in terms of like the risk, right? Of actually being attacked. The statistics are still very low. I'm curious what the correlation is between bear attacks and shark attacks. But I mean, you're so much more comfortable in the water. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not going to learn to surf. I'm afraid of sharks." And it's like, come on, like you're not. Yeah. Like, but it's kind of the same thing ultimately, isn't it? Like when these happens, we talk about it because it is kind of a rare thing.
I have to think there's been more shark attacks than bear attacks. I could be wrong. Well, I don't know. I don't know, actually. It'd be really easy to find out. But yeah, I mean, it is similar. And the thing is the thing that's hard though about surfing is that like you can just not go where they did, and it's there's plenty. Like I mean, there's definitely times where, you know, like in the wintertime, for example, we get a lot of runoff, which forms really good sandbars. And so there's a couple spots I like to surf up in Marin County that are purely based on, oh, good, there's been a lot of sand. So like when you're surfing, it's like you can't see 6 inches into the water. Like it's so murky with sand. And that's like one of the worst times to do it because sharks are even more confused about what's out there, you know, and you know, theoretically, if sharks know what you are, they're not going to try to hunt you and eat you. So it's when they can't see well that they're more likely to get killed. Yeah. And I'll still surf. You know, like I've been out before where the bloated body of a cow was floating nearby, and just been like, oh, that's probably attracting some shit. But God, the sandbar is insane. I'm not getting out. You know, so it's like, I don't know. I've done that too. So I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure these people feel the same way. Like they're aware. You know, like I've lived my entire life surfing in the Red Triangle which is from like Marin down to I guess probably San Luis Obispo County, which is like the Grizzly or the the Great White like capital of North America. And you know, I don't like not surf. I still surf. So
yeah, I'm curious about the phrasing they use in the article about it's an aggressive grizzly too, because like what does that mean? You know, because you know there was a mountain lion attack just east of Seattle when we were still living up there a few years back, and it was an emaciated, cat that, it was a problem, right? And a mountain biker got killed. I'm pretty sure got killed. And they, when they found it, like, oh yeah, this thing was just gonna go after anybody. Like, was not doing the typical things. Usually, I mean, you and I probably both walked or run or biked by mountain lions and had no idea they were there, right? Just in all the, just the amount of the odds are unlikely. Yeah. And this thing was aggressive. So I'm curious what that means, like the aggressive bear. Was it, especially with it's a combination of the aggressive bear with experienced backpackers? Because it's like, well, what was, I'm curious of the encounter. I would almost want to know more because yeah, ultimately we can't be afraid of these sort of encounters. Otherwise we won't ever go do the things that we like to go do, right? Yeah. I mean, even most shark attacks, by all accounts, are like, they bite someone and like, oh, I don't want that, and they swim away, right? And it's like rarely is it like, fuck yeah, I'm going to eat this, like that doesn't really happen that often. And usually it's just like unfounded fears based off of movies and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm totally with you. At the same time, if someone who was like a guide was like, hey, you should come up and go backpacking in Banff, I'd probably be like, that sounds spectacular. You wouldn't go? No, you're shaking your head no?
No, I know I wouldn't. I've had that experience. I've had that opportunity in Banff. I've had the opportunity in Montana, and I tell you right now.
What about Alaska? Same thing?
Nope.
No kidding.
Unless it was like a place, unless it was somewhere where there's really not any grizzly bears around here, but in a place where there's bears around, no. Yeah. I wouldn't enjoy it, and I can't. I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I can't explain to you how that's possibly different than surfing. I don't know. I mean, I've surfed places like in Hawaii that are like super notoriously like tiger shark inhabited. Tiger sharks are way more aggressive than great whites. I think it has. I don't know if it's something to. I feel like with the shark attack, it's more like you can't see it for the most part. It's just going to be like a boom. It's got you, and then like you either live or you die. A bear thing to me seems so much more terrifying because it's like they're stalking you. You're aware of it. Like it's not like an instantaneous thing from below that you can't see. Like if I get eaten by a shark, I can't imagine. It's got to be fucking horrifying, but it's going to be over fast. A grizzly bear attack, holy crap! Like I don't know, that to me just scares the living shit out of me. And there's other places I can go that are going to look similar enough.
Condolences to the families. It's one of these. This is definitely one of those things that we don't like to think about. But every few months, year or so, always seems to crop up and definitely makes you kind of evaluate your choices, I guess, when you're going outside. Our next topic is in the running world, where runner Sean Daniels, I had to actually Google pronunciation of that because it's Sion, because he's Welsh, seen at the finish line of the Cardiff Half Marathon, which also got my eggs as a Cardiff here in San Diego. So I'm like, oh, was this locally? No, it's Cardiff over in Wales.
The real Cardiff.
The real Cardiff, which is the largest participation event in Wales and raises £3 million for charity every October. He was seen celebrating a time of the half marathon of 1:07 and 40 seconds, which would have gotten him 21st place. But organizers said he removed his chip and submitted a false GPS recorded file of the 2022 edition of the race. So the course matched the 2022 race, not the current one. Daniels was seen at the halfway point, very far behind the leaders, and concerns were raised when he was celebrating at the finish. Given where he was seen at the halfway point, he would have had to run a world record pace for the final 7 miles to get the time he claimed, which apparently he was not capable of when looking at his previous race times. This just was confounding to me, because what possible low point do you need to be in your life to think about lying about your half marathon time?
I don't in any way have a justification for what I'm about to say, but I love it. I'm fascinated by this kind of thing, and I love reading stories about like where someone just showed up halfway through the race in the front, and everyone's like, "Well, you obviously like didn't run until the end or whatever." Like this happens a lot. I feel like these sort of regional races,
especially in 2023, where there's video cameras everywhere and people filming.
I love it. I can't explain it. There's an amazing book called, and I don't remember what it's called, but the paraphrasing of the title is like Great Adventure Hoaxes, and there's like maybe 8 or so stories of people.
It's like Rosie Ruiz in there, the Boston Marathon and stuff like that. Or
no, this is more like like exploration type things. Where someone
okay.
Like big time, like they said they went to a place and they didn't. And like I'm just fascinated by the people that are like that are able. Like, do they think they won? Like, does he think he won?
Well,
like, are these people insane?
He's claiming to be 21st. It wasn't even like I won the race.
Okay, I glossed over that part. Amazing. It doesn't matter. That's the thing. Is it's like it does either way. Does
it really doesn't matter?
He ran the whole race. Like I don't know. Something about I love the moxie. I don't know. I hate cheating in sports, generally speaking. Like, I think all steroid users should be kicked out of the Hall of Fame, and I think the Astros should vacate their 2017 World Series title and all these sorts of things. But when it comes to some Welsh dude who's just like, I'm going to cheat in this marathon, I don't know. I love the moxie. I can't explain it. I think it's cool.
I would love to wrap this guy in like Wonder Woman's lasso of truth and just be like, come on, man, tell me what's up. Like, what is going on with you?
Because it had to have been a bet. Had to have been a bet. Like, he bet somebody he could finish.
The backstory is going to be, it could be sad, but it's going to be great no matter what it is, right? If it's just like, hey, man, I was at a low point. I just wanted to go for it and see if I could get away with it. Or, yeah, my buddy said I couldn't do this. Whatever. This is a movie. This is not like something that actually happens in real life. You know what I mean? Like, this is amazing.
There was a kind of a big story, and I don't remember. I think it was like in the New York Times, but I don't remember what like series of events it was where somebody had been clearly fabricated. Well, it took a long time before anybody figured it out, but some guy had been, I think it was a guy, could have been a woman. No, you know what? I think he was winning. I think it was a guy. I think he was like a dentist or something. It's coming back to me. And I think he was like winning all these races, and people finally started to put 2 and 2 together. They never saw him in the places where he should have been. And there was like this big like deep dive into his like numbering system, and it got really complicated where he was like leaving watches in different places or something. So it was like there'd be like little blips on his like location device. They're like, well, where? Oh, there he is. And it was like, that's how he was sort of manipulating getting to certain places in the race. But it was like a big controversy, and I was like, that's so interesting. That's way more interesting to me than like someone who wins every race that's ever been run and they're the best runner in the world. Who gives a shit? But this guy who like spent all this time figuring out how to cheat and like win at it. That to me, I'd listen to a podcast about that. Like, that's awesome.
Me too. No, I almost like I want to think that there's some like vast conspiracy of people who are just trying to get away with this, especially in like modern age where we do have so much technology capturing all of our movements. Like Rosie Ruiz, one reason why she got, I think, caught, I believe there was footage of her getting on the T, like the subway system in Boston.
I remember that.
In the middle of the race. And that was like in the was that like the 70s or 80s or something? I mean, it was before there was cameras everywhere, right? So imagine trying to get away with this today. So I love the idea of like these guys were like, all right, man, I'm going to go for it in Cardiff this year. Like,
it's because it's funny. Like it's fucking funny. It's absolutely like if I was running a race, if I entered like a marathon, which there's no way in hell I could even finish a half marathon. I love that I could like enter a marathon and be like, I'm gonna cheat, and I'm like 3 miles in or whatever, and I'm like, all right, and I'm just like sprinting out and like kind of pulling over for a rest or whatever.
Yeah,
and like
maybe try like the little like local where you have like 100 runners or something, because like the giant like biggest event in Wales, like I feel like even with more participants, you're more likely to get caught. There's just more attention on it.
Yeah.
And he probably,
Well-
I bet, like, I hope we get more on a follow-up story of this, because you've got to think that he, like, maybe he thought out, like, well, I'll finish, like, 21st. Like, no one will notice if I'm in the 20s. Like, if I win, they'll know.
That's part of it too. I mean, if someone's losing money from it, that's bad. Like if you're like taking someone's like prize check away, I don't like that. But just generally speaking, I find it really funny. And
I think
that's great.
much like the Bedrock thing, I think this is going to generate such good PR probably for the event, right? I mean, because people are going to be sympathetic to the event and be like, fuck this guy who's trying to cheat at the charity event. You know what I mean? Like, I think if anything, the event's going to benefit from it over time, I would think. I didn't know about the Cardiff half marathon before this happened.
I'm also generally not a competitive person, so I don't really care. Like, well, in some ways, I mean, I want the Dodgers to win at all costs. So I guess in some ways I'm kind of competitive, but not like directly so. Not directly so. Like if you and I are gonna like I do not care, for example, who rides faster on a bike, and I never would.
Same.
Like it doesn't like that kind of shit doesn't matter. Like I've entered one bike race. At no point was I like, I got to pass this person next to me. Like it didn't even enter my head. Like I don't. So it's different. I don't care who wins or loses.
Yeah, we need a Grand Fondo for every event, because even when I was doing, I never entered a race thinking I'm going to win this, but I also was like, it would get in my head then if I was feeling bad during the race. Like, fuck, this is a race and I suck and I'm not going to. Versus like, hey, it's a great, who cares? We're just here. It takes you 10 hours to run 13 miles and who cares? I think that's a healthier way to approach these things for sure. All right, man. Well, we can wrap it up there. But first, before we do, some tough love for our listeners. The Rock Fight is a slave to the god of algorithms. So when we ask you to subscribe and rate the show, we try to be nice about it. But even if you were modestly entertained today, and I don't know how you can only be modestly entertained by this show, please subscribe and rate the show 5 stars. I mean, ask yourself, what would Tacoma Phil do? I assume that he's followed and given us 5 stars. He's our biggest fan, right?
Can we find out?
Phil, write in. Have you subscribed to the podcast? If anyone has subscribed, it's Phil. I believe in you, Phil. Before we sign off, though, you got anything to plug? You got your AJ newsletter. AJ's got a new podcast, so he can hear you in other places now.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. The first one comes out next week. Well, although I don't know when this is dropping. Today's Saturday, October 7th. I can't remember when the first AJ one is released, but it will be next week. Nice. So by the time you hear this, it will be out there and available.
The Adventure Journal podcast. Yeah, check it out.
The Adventure Journal podcast. Different vibe than the Rock Fight podcast. So if you want a little bit more of like a more less swearing and less me making fun of people.
No, I got a sneak preview of it. It is quite good. So please, everybody, make sure you subscribe and listen also to AJ's podcast. That's awesome. And then get more Hausman in your life. Who doesn't need more Hausman in their life? But we'll be back soon with more outdoor ideas that aim for your head. The Rock Fight's production, Rock Fight LLC. For Justin Hausman, I'm Colin Truth. Thanks for listening. And here, as always, to take us out is Krista Meggs from Less Than Jake with the Rock Fight fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.